Welcome to Screw the Commute, the entrepreneurial podcast dedicated to getting you out of the car and into the money. With your host, lifelong entrepreneur and multimillionaire, Tom Antion.
Hey everybody, it's Tom here with episode 413 of Screw the Commute podcast. I'm here with Jen Amos, and she is, I would say, perfect for this podcast because listen to what her credential is that I think is really awesome. She got fired 4 times in a row and then won Media Professional of the Year. Now that's what I call a great credential. I'm going to get her to tell me about that because, you know, that's a really high achiever that can get fired 4 times in a row. That's great. So we'll bring her on in a minute. Hope you didn't miss episode 412. That's Lindsay Adams. He's the business relationship guy, and he has a book called DNA for Business Relationships. And it's really great that the things he was bringing out on how he keeps up with people and how he turns that into business. And you might notice that I screwed up the schedule, and he was on Monday because that's normally a day when I just do a training session. So if you're wondering what happened to me, no, I'm still alive. Here I am. But on the Monday thing, we had Lindsay. All right, how'd you like to hear your own voice here on Screw the Commute? So if the show's helped you out at all in your business or given you ideas to help you start a business, we want to hear about it. Visit screwthecommute.com, look for a little blue sidebar that says send a voicemail, click on it, talk into your phone or computer and tell me how the show has helped you out. Put your website on there so you can get a big shout out on a future episode of Screw the Commute. Now, pick up a copy of our automation ebook. This ebook, the techniques in it have saved me millions of keystrokes, definitely saved me carpal tunnel, allows me to ethically steal business from other people who are too slow to get back to prospects. And it's just wonderful. You're going to thank me for this. And we sell it for $27, but it's yours free for listening to the show. So pick it up at screwthecommute.com/automate free. Screwthecommute.com/automate free. While you're over there, pick up a copy of our podcast app at screwthecommute.com/app. That's APP. You can put us on your cell phone and tablet and take us with you on the road. All right, I know everybody's still freaking out about the pandemic, but I'm not, and my students aren't because we know how to sell online. I've been doing it personally since the commercial internet started in 1994. That's 27 years, and been teaching it for 23 years. But 13 years ago, I decided to formalize the training, and I went to the state of Virginia, and I'm the only licensed, dedicated internet marketing school in the country. Certified to operate by SHEV, the State Council on Higher Education in Virginia, but you don't have to be in Virginia because it's good quality distance learning, not like these 4-year colleges that all of a sudden have a distance learning program after 2 days and say, oh, we got to still steal money from kids and teach them how to protest remotely now instead of in person, I guess. And then they get out and they're competing for jobs at Starbucks. So no, the stuff we teach is in high demand by every business on earth. So your young people in your life can have a good, solid career. A lot of them are making money right before they even graduate. And if your business is spending too much money to get too little web presence and too little sales, maybe you want to get into it too. And I'll tell you how you can get a scholarship to it by being in my mentor program. Tell you about that a little later. So the school is imtcva.org. Of course, all the stuff we have and Jen's stuff will be in the show notes. All right, let's get to the main event. Jen Amos is a Gold Star daughter, and she's a veteran spouse and host of the award-winning podcast, Holding Down the Fort. And that highlights the needs and perspectives of career military families. Now, she is the community relations director of an award-winning business, U.S. Vet Wealth, which she runs with her husband, Scott Tucker. And he's been on the show before. You want to make sure you look up that episode. And Jen, you ready to screw the commute?
Absolutely, Tom.
How you doing?
Great. And I just want to start by saying thank you for, I guess, reframing that time in my young 20s when I was fired from 4 jobs
Oh,
consecutively and calling me an overachiever. Thank you for that.
that's right. That's I am thrilled to death with that credential. I mean, how many people have that kind of good credential? And I kind of relate to it. I wasn't really fired, but I had people trying to kill me at a job.
Oh
I
my
was,
goodness.
yeah, I did have a part-time job at a steel mill one time,
Hmm.
and I was doing so much work so fast, the guys were yelling at me and say, "Stop it! They're going to increase our quota." And I wouldn't stop, and they started trying to run big steel beams into me. so,
Oh my
so I
goodness.
was an overachiever that lived through it. But yeah, 4 times getting fired. Oh my God, we really have to get some type of award for that too. Yeah. so,
I would love that.
so tell everybody what you're doing now, and then we'll take you back and see how you came up through the ranks.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I feel very fortunate today to be an award winning podcaster as well as run an award winning business with my husband, Scott, as you had mentioned. A lot of my time is probably is similar to you, talking to a lot of good people and finding common ground for, to foster community and connection and potential collaboration, through podcasting. And, with the pandemic, it was really a perfect time to be in podcasting because of just how isolated
Mm-hmm.
we all are.
Right.
And also being an introvert, Tom, I was thrilled, to be quite honest, when we all were forced to be at home, because I thought, okay, cool, like now doing virtual meetings are justified. Like I don't
Mm-hmm.
have to prove myself by showing up to places and traveling and dressing up a certain way. It's like, oh, I could just do it all from home.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of my time is really that whole community building that I do through podcasting, so that we can find good people who may want to work with us at our company, US Vet Wealth, or even be a client. So yeah, that's a little snippet of snapshot of my life right now.
Yeah, and I'm the same way. I'm actually thrilled to death to be sitting home, and people like, are you crazy? Because I speak at these big events and I'm Mr. Personality and all is fun, but I'm thrilled to death to come home and recharge and sit here with the dogs and nobody bugging me.
Yeah,
So
I was gonna like, I know that you had students come at your place,
right,
and I asked you before, I was like, do you feel lonely? And you're like, nope. And I was like, that's awesome.
yeah, yeah. So speaking of lonely, I was doing a little research on you, and so this is kind of opposite of what you just said. You're happy to be alone, but you started your podcast out of loneliness, at least in part. Tell us about that.
Yeah, absolutely, Tom. Well, prior to moving out to the East Coast, I've lived here for about 3 years now. I lived in San Diego, California for 20 years, and we moved out here formally for work. And initially, we were in Richmond, Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
And then 7 months later, we came out to Virginia Beach, pretty much have lived here for about 2 years now. But by the time we moved here, I was just starving for a social life. Like I said, we moved out to Richmond at first for work. And so it almost felt like, and I think it almost felt like a deployment, like it felt like we weren't going there to start a new life together. It was for work. And so when we came out here to Virginia Beach, this was actually a family decision. I knew that I wanted to start growing roots from the bottom up. Like since we decided that it's not just for work to be out here, we were gonna, try to start a life of some sort. And so, but it was hard. It was hard to build local connections. And my background being a military child for the first 10 years sort of convinced me that it was just going to be really difficult for me to make friends locally or physically. And so I needed to find a way to build a network and a community that I could take with me wherever I go. And that's how podcasting came into existence.
Now,
It
now
was
you've been here
really
how
by,
long? How long have you been here?
so how long have I been in Virginia
Yeah,
Beach?
Virginia Beach.
Yeah, for about 2 years now.
Okay.
This year will be our second year.
Okay, so
And
hold on. So
yeah,
you've been here 2 years. I've
yeah.
been here 20.
Uh-huh.
And we met in person one time. I mean, how much more social life do you want? I mean,
Yes, Tom. Sorry, Tom, you weren't enough.
oh man, I thought I was enough to go around for a lot of people.
Yeah, but it's difficult because, and that's the thing, you mentioned you lived here for a long time. I was running into a lot of people who've lived here for a long time as well. So to just kind of try to integrate myself in those circles is really difficult for me. And then, of course, when the pandemic hit, it made it even more difficult. I remember at the beginning of 2020, I did start to go to networking events and, meetups and trying to make friends that way. But like I said, the pandemic hit, everyone started meeting online, and it kind of just reinforced why I started podcasting. And I'm so glad that I had summer of 2019 to start, because I think it gave me like the practice,
Right.
to get into podcasting, so that when 2020 came, I was already at it. I was already kind of in my zone to do it and to have conversations virtually.
See, I would have thought this area would have been extremely easy because of all the transient, the military, like, I do stuff for military spouses and stuff, and they're here for 2 years and gone. So aren't they all in the same boat where they're really trying to find some local friends, or else they avoid that because then they have to leave them? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a hit or miss. Sometimes people in the military, they know they're going to be here temporarily, so they kind of stick to their own. They'll stick to their family. They'll kind of stick to the long distance calls to stay in touch with family. Or some will dive in deep and just straight up make friends. Right? They'll just be like, I'm going to make friends. I don't know how long I'm going to be here. I'm going to get into it. And so I think for me, it was like trying to find that balance. But really, when I started getting to podcasting, I thought, oh well, this is easier for me. This is more convenient,
Right. Yeah.
And so I kind of just stuck with it. It became my number one way of socializing.
Well, tell us about U.S. Vet Wealth. What exactly does it do?
Yeah. So US Vet Wealth, the way that I like to describe our company nowadays is we like to provide thought-provoking financial education and flexible financial solutions to our career military families. And what I mean by that is, when you think about traditional financial planning, it's usually tailored towards civilians with the assumption that, you're going to go through corporate America and you're going to climb up the ladder. And the whole idea is to work until you're in your 60s. And then you can pull money out of your, insurance and out of your retirement planning. And the thing is, though, with the military, especially career military families, when they transition out, they're not going from one corporate job to another. They're going from, being trained or prepared or preparing themselves for war to back to regular life.
Yeah.
And so the financial planning is a lot different for them. It's not just about the money, it's the mindset. And so what we like to do is be able to support them in a way where they can, adapt to post-military life and have money be one of the last stressors for them to think about in that new life of theirs as civilians.
Now, the name of the place is Vet Wealth, like veteran wealth, but do you wait until they're out of the service to start? Wouldn't this be better to start while they're in thinking about this?
Yeah. So that's a good point. We call it US Vet Wealth mainly because it is started by a veteran, my husband.
Oh, okay.
when he had transitioned out, he actually got into financial services around like late 2000, actually around 2008 when the economic downturn happened in America, good times. And so he got into financial industry while everything was crashing. And so he was able to kind of learn the hard way of how to do financial planning. But he also saw a significant difference in serving, our military families at the time when he was stationed in Germany versus our civilian counterparts. And so that's part of why we have Vet in US Vet Wealth, because he was a veteran, when he started this business. But you're right, Tom. We do highly encourage people to look at their finances or personal finances while they're in service. However, there's a certain kind of mindset or a certain kind of season we're looking for. So when you first get started in the military, we don't really target, I guess you can say, like the young active duty military service members, because they're young, probably not married yet, don't have kids. They're not thinking about it. They're not really thinking about like financial planning for their future, right? However, we like to work with the seasoned military families, or we call them career military, because they're, in the service with the intent to be in there for at least 10 to 20 years, if not more. And so these are the ones by then that have families. They're kind of in that stage where they are thinking about transition maybe, and therefore they're in that mindset to think about their personal finances and what that's going to look like in post-military life. So those are ideally the best demographic that are most aware or willing to be able to talk to us.
Don't you have a book or something that also helps them out?
Yeah. We do have two books. I mean, one that really dives into the philosophies of our company is actually called Veteran Wealth Secrets. And to our listeners, you're more than welcome to download the first 3 chapters at our website, veteranwealthsecrets.com. So that's one book that really gets into the philosophies. But the one I really wanted to talk about today is actually called The Modern Guide to Veteran and Military Life Insurance Planning. And this is really for the families that haven't really taken a deeper look into their survivor benefit plan or the veterans group life insurance. And so these are plans or benefits that these families are told are benefits, Tom, but in reality, they're paying for them.
Yeah.
They're paying for them. And a lot of military spouses, for example, don't know that the survivor benefit plan doesn't benefit the service member. It benefits the spouse. It benefits them should anything happen to them. And those benefits actually increase when they transition out of the military. And so if they don't look at it while they're in the military, they may be in for a surprise in post-military life, paying more for a plan that may not actually serve them and their family. And so that's a good book that I recommend. We do have a website for it if anyone wants to learn about it. The website is survivorlibertyplan.com. And from there's a webinar on there where you'll see my husband's face really get into the nitty gritty of the survivor benefit plan and what other options you can have in case you realize that the SBP is not the right option for you and your family.
So Jen, I think when I met you and your husband, I told you I was not married.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always been skeptical of buying big life insurance. Like, I wonder if she's thinking, man, I'm worth more dead than alive. so, so, and I heard this one famous guy he says, I don't have any life insurance. He says, when I die, I want it to be a real tragedy.
Wow.
So Jen, besides your colorful employment past,
my high achieving past.
Yeah.
Right?
I noticed that as you're a journalism major, and I probably had publicity in there somewhere, and you do a lot of podcasts, but one in particular stands out.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not actually going to say it on here because I don't want to have to make this episode explicit, but I'll say something that maybe rhymes with it. So you were on Gagina Talks.
Oh. Yes.
And with Sophia Wise. And I'm thinking to myself, man, she's on there, but they always say no to me. I don't know what they're talking about. So what was that show about?
Yeah, I mean, Sophia's great. Wow. I mean, there's so much to say about her.
I'll bet. Yeah.
I mean, for the show, whatever rhymes with vagina. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't actually even about that, to be quite honest. I think our conversation was really about, from what I recall, like talking about our inner child, talking about kind of the child that you may have abandoned as you started to the younger version of yourself.
Yeah, but it did get her mentioned on this show and probably a lot of other ones because this long list of shows you've done, that's the only one I noticed.
That's the one that stood out to you.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Yeah. I mean, I love being on other people's podcast shows because for one, I like to kind of test my range in regards to like how much of myself I'm willing to share. Like, I don't know until I'm on the show,
Right.
And I'm open to it. I love the challenge when people ask me questions that help like kind of get me caught off guard and get me to think about later. But yeah, one thing that I did with her that I hadn't done on other people's shows was kind of talk about the younger version of ourselves. And when I think about the younger version of myself, I think about when I was 10, when I lost my dad, how my family became a Gold Star family.
Mm-hmm.
He was on active duty. He was 18 years in. He was only 2 years away from retiring. His last duty station was Yokosuka, Japan. And his ship, the last ship he had the last ship he was on was the USS Kitty Hawk, and his ship was going from Yokosuka, Japan to South Korea when he went missing. And they sent a search crew for him for 3 days. They continued an investigation for 3 months, and eventually they let it go. And that is the girl I think about pretty much for the rest of my life, like what happened to her, the younger version of
Oh
myself, my
boy.
10-year-old self, and who I became after that time.
Hmm.
So it was really fun to unpack that with Sophia on her show.
Well, yeah. I mean, there seems like there's a big open door there that's not been shut on what actually happened to him. I'm really sorry to hear that. But
Yeah, no, thank you for that. Yeah.
besides being on that show, and besides your stellar employment record, you have a Guinness Book World Record. What's that all about?
Yeah.
Told you you're
let
a
me
high
actually grab
achiever.
it. Yeah, so
Don't
I want to make
leave.
sure I
Don't
want to make
leave.
sure I say the title correctly. So I got my certificate in front
Oh.
of me here. So this was actually a ton of fun. This was done during the pandemic. The shout out to Podfest Expo. They wanted to do something fun, during this time, since a lot of conferences were obviously shut down and canceled.
Mm-hmm.
And so what Podfest wanted to do was they wanted to break the Guinness World Records for the largest attendance for a virtual podcasting conference in 1 week. And so, Tom, the record at the time was 5,000. So we had to break 5,000 in 1 week, have that many attendees.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of that conference, we were able to break 5,003 participants. So,
how
so
did
we barely made it.
how did Guinness check up on that? Because they're pretty strict on stuff, on proving that you did what you said you were going to do.
Oh yeah, well, it's really the organizers that were able to make that happen. I'm pretty sure. I mean, I can't speak on behalf of them.
Right.
I just had the fortune of participating and speaking and helping, get the participants. But, I mean, I'm holding the physical certificate right now. And also the fun thing, Tom, is they decided Podfest Global or Podfest Expo decided to do it again just a couple weeks ago at the time of this recording. They wanted to beat that record, 5,003 attendees. And get this. So at the end of the event, they actually hit over 6,000 attendees. I think almost 7,000, but I think 6,080 to be specific. I could be wrong. But yeah, they broke it again, which means I'm going to get another certificate.
Yay! 2 world records. Isn't that great?
Yeah. It's fun. It's I think part of why I strive for these awards.
Yeah, because you have a lot of them, more than I can read off today. I was looking through your stuff. So you got a little bit of everything going on.
Yeah, but you know what though? If you do read them, the commonality is that I received the majority of them when I moved out to the East Coast. So mainly in 2019 till today. And the reason
I
why
knew all those West Coast people were just selfish, absorbed people.
they're upset that I left them. They're like, oh, you could have brought that all here. Well, the reason why it was, I guess, so important for me to achieve all of that is because I was trying to reestablish myself out here. It goes back to how lonely I felt, how when I moved out here, I left my former business behind, my friends, my family, my reputation, to follow my husband and to follow his business. And part of the whole loneliness back in summer 2019 now is I wanted to have an identity outside of him. I wanted to come as a whole person into our business. I didn't want to just be Scott's wife. I didn't want to just be.
I've been through that before. Yeah.
Yeah. His business partner. And so for me, all of this is it's this validation that I can stand on my own 2 feet. I am of value. I'm a whole person coming into this business, coming, into the East Coast. And so that's really what it meant for me, is to just know that, like, in less than 3 years, I was able to accomplish all of this. I was able to reinvent myself, and I'm proud of myself for that.
And you still had time to, instead of being a stuck-up snob about all these big awards you got, to volunteer. That's important in your life, it appears, from the places you've volunteered.
Yeah. It's very important to me. It's the things that I volunteer for. Like, one of the things I do is volunteer with Veterati, where you can provide free consultation to veterans and military spouses and family members. And, that's especially important to me. Just kind of going back to my own Gold Star family background of, when we transitioned out, it just seemed as if like my dad's story disappeared.
Mm.
We didn't talk about him anymore. And I felt like a lot of my life since then was just trying to be my own adult ally, like look out for myself, hence why I had my own business before I met my husband. And it was a really humbling experience for me when we came out here and I had to depend on him,
Oh.
like just having that whole background of like, I can stand on my own. I'm an
Yeah.
independent woman, although I have learned the importance of interdependence and, coexisting with
I'm
people.
sure
So
he
I'm
depends
not.
on you for a lot.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Like we definitely complement each other in a lot of ways. But yeah. Anyway, I lost my train of thought. I don't
Oh,
remember what I was going
I
to
was
get to.
talking about your volunteer work.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And so with Veterati, for example, it's my way to give back and in a form of self-healing, to know that like, even though I may not have received the help that I needed, at least I can give that now, and then with the other volunteer work that I do, which is completely anonymous, it's this website called 7cups.com. It's really a space for people who maybe aren't ready to seek out therapy, but and maybe they don't want to burden their friends with their problems, but they still need to have an outlet to talk to someone. And so 7 Cups is a perfect platform for anyone that's kind of just looking for a pen pal, to open up to about anything and everything. And it's anonymous on both parties. Like I'm anonymous when I'm on there, they're anonymous. And so it really gets them to feel more, safe to open up about certain things. Of course, there are some topics that should not be addressed because, if it's anonymous, people think they can get away with anything, but there are guidelines.
Well, I was going to
on
say,
there.
I said, maybe I shouldn't go over there because I'd be like, what are you wearing?
Yeah. And there is checks and balances. You could report, you can report like the volunteer and you can report the, the member on there. But yeah, there's definitely checks and balances. They are aware that could happen and that has happened. But if you do use it for the right reasons, it is a really valuable place to feel heard. And sometimes that's all people need is they need to know that someone heard them and say, hey, I hear you and I validate what you're going through and what you're going through is normal. And sometimes that's enough, for people. And that's a good taste to, what a good mental health resource could be for people that still have a stigma toward, seeking out help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. And just in case you're wondering, I have a triple X hoodie on and a pair of ratty sweatpants.
I didn't ask.
Just in case you were wondering. So we got to take a brief sponsor break here. When we come back, we'll ask Jen what's a typical day look like for her and how she stays motivated. So folks, about 23 years ago, I kind of turned the internet marketing guru world on its head in that people like me were charging 50 or 100 grand up front to teach you this small business internet marketing. And I knew a lot of these people, they'd be hiding out somewhere if you gave them 50 grand up front and wouldn't help you anyway. So I said, that's not fair to small business people. So I said, I'm going to charge an entry fee and then I'm going to tie my success to your success. So for me to get my 50 grand, you have to net 200 grand. Well, people loved this idea, and 1,700 students later and 23 years, it's still going strong. It's the longest running, most successful, most unique internet marketing mentor program ever. And I don't feel bad about saying that because I've triple dare people over years to put their program up against mine line for line and see who wins. And nobody will do it because I'm a crazy fanatic that work day and night, holidays, weekends, and helping people. And I could have quit this years ago, but I just love to see the results from the folks that I'm helping. So you can check that out and check out all the unique features at greatinternetmarketingtraining.com, greatinternetmarketingtraining.com. And if you're in that program, you get a scholarship to the school, which you can either use yourself or gift to someone. It would be one of the best legacy gifts you could ever give to a nephew, niece, daughter, grandchildren, way better than just giving them money or a car that's going to depreciate it away in no time. This will give them an in-demand skill so they can have their own career in as little as 6 months. And some of them in 2 or 3 months are already making side hustle money to the tune of a couple $1,000s a month. So this is serious stuff that I've been living and breathing for 27 years now, and I'd love to see you get involved. So check it out at greatinternetmarketingtraining.com. Give me a call. I'm very easily accessible. We could talk about your future online and some of your loved ones' future online. All right, let's get back to the main event. Jen Amos is here. She is a big time overachiever in so many ways. And for being a diminutive, lovely young lady, she can really turn it on. I'll tell you, she's done a lot of things, won all kinds of awards and 2 Guinness Book of World Records. I mean, geez. So Jen, what's a typical day look like for you now since this COVID hit and kept us home mostly?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks again, Tom, for just making me feel good about myself. When you're stuck at home like all the time. I mean, even literally just yesterday, I was like questioning my existence. I'm like, what am I doing all this for? But for you to just remind me of my own success, it really is a confidence.
I mean, look, I've done 400 and some episodes. You're 413. So I see all these 400 people, what they have done in their life. And you are way up there in the top percentile, let me tell you.
Oh, that's so kind of you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, my day
doesn't mean you can come over and visit me just because you're lonely. So just, literally, I see lots of people and you've done lots of great things in your life and you're still doing great things, especially with the volunteering and helping people that need it. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for saying that, Tom. Well, yeah, I mean, my day to day. So it's interesting because when we first moved out here, when we first moved to the East Coast in general, I was trying to establish myself and ultimately like figure out what my day-to-day routine is. And so for me, this is how it now has laid out. So Mondays are typically like an admin day for me. That's kind of the day to look at my calendar, see if there's any emails.
Yeah, but start us out. Like, what time you get up? Do you work out? Do you have a morning routine? Do you meditate? I mean, what's the day start out like for you?
Yeah, let me think about like my busiest day because I think it pretty much embodies what my day looks like. So I typically start my day, at least work meetings, starting at 11:30. Prior to that, it's free game for me. It's kind of like I could sleep in. I could listen to an audiobook. Actually, the first thing I do when I wake up, it's so funny because I don't like turn on my head until my meetings start. But yeah, literally when I wake up, I drink 2 cups of water. Not just any kind of water. I really love alkaline water or pH water, high pH water, which I get at Whole Foods for like 99 cents a gallon. And it's so funny because everyone thinks like, oh, that's so expensive. I'm like, soda is expensive.
99 cents a gallon. I was thinking it was going to be $9 a gallon at Whole Foods.
Yeah, it's actually really affordable. But I've been drinking alkaline water for years now. And no joke, Tom, like the only times I've gotten really sick was when I wasn't drinking alkaline water, like when I ran out of alkaline water. So tip for anyone that's looking for, just an easy way to stay healthy, because there's just something about it that works for me. But anyway, I start off my day drinking water, looking out my window. We're very fortunate to live on the beach. And so I get to see the waves first thing in the morning. And then I didn't know that.
Did you move since the last time I talked to you?
No, we lived in the same place.
Oh, I thought you lived out in Norfolk or somewhere.
No, we live in Chicks Beach specifically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so it's actually fun to, visit Mount Trashmore because it's like there's grass there, on the beach.
Yeah. See, I stay away from the sand. I stay away from the beach because I get too many harpoon wounds when the whalers are going by,
Oh my goodness. That's awful. I'm glad I haven't gotten caught yet.
Well, they wouldn't try to hit you because you don't look like a whale.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, so I start my day drinking water, kind of looking outside, reflecting. I'll turn on my phone. I sleep with my phone off, and I have one of those well,
that's un-American right there. I thought you were a Gold Star family member and you sleep with your phone off. Oh my God.
Yeah. Well, it's called healthy boundaries, Tom.
Okay.
Healthy boundaries.
All right.
But anyway, how I do wake up.
See, I dip mine into alkaline water. That's how I said.
But yeah, if I have to wake up at a certain time, so like I start to prepare for the day 2 hours before my first meeting. So if my first meeting is at 11:30, I set my alarm for 9:30.
Okay.
And I have this alarm. It's a vibrating alarm that I put in my pillow. So that way I could actually sleep with earplugs because, the good thing about, I love living on the beach, but the waves and just, I'm a light sleeper.
Okay.
So it
All
helps.
right.
And also my husband snores and my
Okay.
dog snores. So, so just all this chaos going
Yep.
on. So I sleep with earplugs, but yeah, wake up and I start my day, let's say like at 9:30. That's when I start to make myself coffee, or I check in with Scott and see how he's doing. Sometimes we'll do a little powwow, see what his day is going to look like. And then 10:30, I start getting ready. I start putting my, Zoom face on, my Zoom outfit nowadays, right? And then by 11:30, I'm just on. I have my
Okay.
light on in front of me, my camera, my microphone, and I'm doing a bunch of meetings. Like I do a lot of back-to-back meetings. Sometimes they're half-hour meetings to 45-minute meetings to an hour. Sometimes I'll have a little breather in between. In between my meetings, I always make it a point to like chug a cup of water, alkaline water specifically. Right. And it helps me get through the day. And so like I said, on my busiest day, I'll probably have meetings from, 11:30 till 5, 6 at night. Sometimes I've gone till 8 o'clock at night because, Tom, like without commuting, right?
Yeah.
Which I think your listeners will appreciate because, screw the commute. It's like I can do so much more with my time. And like now that I don't have to, like, I don't feel, pressured to meet people in person. It's like, oh, like what's, of course I can cram all these meetings in,
Right. Right.
So, and then typically by the end of the day, I start to unwind by like, sometimes I'll walk my dog, or I'll nowadays in the pandemic, rollerblade with my family. My husband, Scott he got rollerblades as well.
Okay.
Because he saw how fun I was having. So he was like, I want to rollerblade as well. So he has rollerblades now. And we'll like go to the park or exercise. And then pretty much the rest of the evening, is just unwinding. But I'm also a night owl, Tom. And so usually, let's say from like 7 to 9, I'll just be, kind of doing whatever, whether it's like catching up on my favorite podcast shows or whatever. But it's usually after that, like 9, 10 o'clock mark where I'm ready to volunteer my time. So the cool thing about 7 Cups is you can hop on there anytime, because it's a worldwide volunteer army. So you can come on anytime. So when I am at that time where I'm ready to talk to people, or I even have pen pals myself on there that I check in with, that I update my life on, that's usually the time that I volunteer. And then pretty much from there, I sometimes get into a lot of deep reflecting and I journal, at least until the point I get tired, and then I go to bed. So that's what a busy day looks like for me.
Wow. And what do you do to keep motivated?
Oh, the meetings are really helpful, to be honest. I think if it weren't for like podcasting and feeling obligated to show up to them, I don't know. Like I definitely have my hard days. I definitely have days like like I was telling you the other day, I was questioning my whole purpose in life, but here's one thing I realized, Tom, because a couple years ago, I was diagnosed with mild depression. And rather than taking antidepressants, I decided to be a student of my depression. So there's a really good book I read called Upward Spiral by Alex Korb. His last name is spelled Korb. So Upward Spiral by Alex Korb. And he said in there that one of the best ways to combat depression, or even manage it or make it manageable, is to be in community with people. And so to feel accountable, to feel like you're part of something greater than yourself. And so podcasting has been that sense of community and accountability for me. And so that's what really keeps me motivated, is despite how I feel, despite the hard days that I have, just knowing that people are depending on me, or I feel obligated to, making other people's stories feel heard, or even serving them as our clients. That's really what keeps me motivated. Is I don't make it about me, like I make it about the people that I can help.
Well, that kind of reminds me of, did you ever hear of Patch Adams?
Mm-mm.
Patch Adams was a guy, I think he was a doctor, but he didn't really, he was kind of a clown. He just made people laugh all the time. And, and Robin Williams, I believe, played him in the movie Patch Adams. But I spoke with him one time. He was speaking at the same event I was speaking at. If somebody was diagnosed as depressed and by his fellow doctor, and they just wanted to give him pills, he said, forget the pills. He handcuffed them to himself. And he took them around with them to working on all the patients that are dying and really in bad
Wow.
shape. And none of them felt like they needed pills, after that.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with, like, they call them candy stripers at the hospitals. There's been studies that show that they live longer than the average person because they're not focused on their own troubles. They're helping
Mhm.
other people just like you are. So you're probably going to live to, be 40, 41 or 2 or something like
Well,
that.
I hope for a long, long time for
Yeah.
sure. But yeah, it's important, I mean, I already gone down the route of isolation. I've
Hmm.
gone down that route of not telling people what I'm going through, not telling people how I'm feeling, and it just wasn't serving me. It wasn't serving anyone I loved. If anything, it hurt the people I
Hmm.
love for them to know that I'm sad and they felt like they couldn't do anything about
Right,
it,
right.
and so it causes this really tragic ripple effect to people if you're sad. And so, I mean, I don't think I'm faking my happiness. I think the fact that I'm being transparent and open and putting myself out there and seeing how I can help people, like it's so self-healing, it's
Exactly.
self-healing, it's fun, and it's exciting. And I mean, I wouldn't have it any other way. So I'm so grateful that, when I got diagnosed, I decided to be a student of that. And I had come to find that community is important. And so, I mean, hence I wouldn't have started podcasting if I didn't feel lonely. Right. So it's very important.
And you're an overachiever. So that means to me, you'll be able to help more people while you're helping yourself.
Yes.
Perfect,
Yes.
perfect,
I
perfect.
love that. That's like the word of our conversation
Yeah.
today, overachiever. So thank
Overachiever.
you for that.
That's going to be in the headline of this episode, by the way, overachiever. So thanks so much for coming on and filling us in on the veteran work you're doing. And give them the website again that they can, or where should they contact you or get these books or what? Put them all that. We'll also put it in the show notes for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the main site to find anything in regards to the books that I had mentioned earlier would be usvetwealth.com. If you just want to get a hold of me, my direct email address is Jen at usvetwealth.com. So from there, like if you want to reach out, if you have any questions or like I said, just reach out, just email me, like I'll respond.
Yeah, and they might have relatives that are veterans or
Yeah.
military people, that aren't listening to this that need your kind of service. So,
Yeah.
um, overall, I think we got to end this podcast now, but I do want to end on a really good note that happy Scott's going to be that you equated his snoring with the dogs in front of thousands of people. So
Yeah.
don't let him
He knows he
listen to
snores
the
though.
end. So Jen, so good to see or talking to you. Being neighbors, of course, we will never see each other again because it's too close. I lived in D.C. for 15 years and had neighbors across 3 blocks away that never knew. Never visited them in 15 years. So,
Yeah.
so that's the way the world goes now. But so glad catching up with you. Tell Scott I said hi, and again, thanks for all the great work you're doing in the veteran community because we're big veteran believers around here. In fact, September is Veterans Month here at Screw the
Yeah.
Commute. So thanks so much.
Yeah. Thanks, Tom. And thanks for having me. It was an absolute pleasure. And it was great catching up with you.
All right.